Welcome to East Tennessee Pinball. Today I'm working on the underside of this Bally Star Trek. I just started taking apart the pop bumpers. I got these two taken off, and I've got this one, the nuts off. So basically, to take the bottom side off of them, there's on this dial anyway, there's 5 nuts. There's 2, one on either side of the ring, and then there's 3. There's one there, and one there, and they're these little lock nuts. Anyway, nylon nuts, and then this comes right off. Once you get this apart, you take off those 2 little machine screws, and well, let me put you on the stand. Let's do it real quick. So just take off these 2 screws here. And a lot of times they're pretty tough to get off. Lift the wires. It's quite possible these things did get apart before. So once you get that comes off, and this comes out. You can also take this coil sleeve. That is not probably the original coil sleeve. It's actually not that dirty. Pretty clean, relatively, actually. Anyway, that goes in the trash. These 2 parts, they're going to go in the ultrasonic, and I just throw these in there just like this. And this is, by the way, this is the upgraded version, because that little metal yoke there, it's 3-dimensional. It's not just a plate, 2-dimensional. It's got that little piece that bends back there. That's the upgraded design. They don't break like the original ones did, so this is a good one. So I'm gonna take all 3 sets of these, throw them in the ultrasonic, and then we'll keep going. So I'm gonna replace the top of the pop bumper assembly here with all new parts. These things are old and yellow and nasty looking. It's got the ivory skirts, which I just absolutely hate. So anyway, to do that, you've got to disconnect the wiring, because the lamp sockets, they basically, those are the 2 wires for the lamp socket. So you've got to disconnect those. So I just snip them off under the playfield, and then there's 2 screws to pull the pop bumper assembly off. So I'm going to start by snipping those 2 wires on each of these pop bumper assemblies, and then I'll be able to get them from the top, the pop bumpers off from the top. So if you want to run a pair of these, this is probably how I go through these all the time. Sometimes I have to use these to get in to snip these, and they're just not up for it. They'll break or bend. So you really need something a little bit stouter. So I'm going to use these. And I'd go ahead and leave the leads moderately long under the playfield, so I've got more to solder to when I come back to it. And these are actually pretty easy to get to. A lot of times there's all kinds of other stuff in the way, but that's not the case for these, fortunately. Okay, so those are all snipped off. By the way, if you're wondering what this stray wire is, it's kind of a jerry-rigged way. Somebody has added an extra wire for this lamp here, and this extra wire basically is superseding this other wire. So this one's not being used, and they just added this one. So apparently this one's got a break in it somewhere, I'm assuming, and somebody just added this one in. That's okay, I guess, but if they just tucked it in and tied it up with the assembly. So I'm either going to get the old wire to work, or if I end up using this, I'm gonna reroute it so it's tucked in nicely, so you wouldn't hardly even know that it's not the original wire. But this is no good, because this will end up breaking. Looks like it's already, no, that's just where somebody put it together. And you know, under that electrical tape, it's never pretty. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we're going to finish up these pop bumpers. So on these pop bumpers, there's only 2 screws for each one, and these things will just pull right out. There'll be a little resistance because the 2 wires for the lamp holder, they're kind of stiff, but it should come right out. See if I can film this one-handed. I can film one-handed if I can just get these screws out one-handed. And sometimes these screws are into the wood, and sometimes they're machine screws and they're into metal. And I'm not sure. These are actually machine screws. They're into metal, so they come right out. And there you go. There's one. I'll do 2 more. You can tell that this game's had a couple of plays. See that wear pattern on the ring there? Kind of matches the wear pattern on the playfield. My gosh. Anyway, I'll take this on the buffing wheel, and I think I'll buff that out, and it'll probably all shine when I'm done with it. I'm gonna give all these pop bumper parts a few minutes in here, and that's gonna make this thing operate super fast. That with new sleeves, and it's really gonna kick. Give that a few minutes. So before I reassemble the bottom of these, and you really got to start with the top anyway, I always like to just clean them up a little bit. It's mostly superficial, with the exception of the underside of the spoon. You know, people will put oil and grease in there. These didn't apparently have any grease, but they're full of soot. They just catch stuff. And I wipe off the top and the bottom of the coils. So here's one that I haven't cleaned yet. They're just filthy. That's a spoon I haven't cleaned. So I just spray them with a little alcohol. Always keep alcohol in the bottle and just wipe them down. And just mostly it's cosmetic, except for the underneath of the spoon. That actually makes things work, because the skirt sticks down and sits in there. So you want that nice and clean so it will move easily and operate that switch. So while we're in here looking, we've got all these little capacitors on a lot of the different switches under the playfield, and these are meant to basically lengthen the amount of time that the MPU sees the switch close, so that the MPU doesn't miss a closure of the switch. And a lot of times they're snipped off on these old Ballys because these caps will short, and if they short, it'll just show the switch closed all the time, so it's kind of a malfunction. The easy way to fix that is just cut it out. So here's an example on the stand-up target. You can kind of see there, I think, if I get it to focus in, that little wire there sticking out. So there was a cap from there to there, and somebody snipped it out. And this one is this is like, I don't know, I call it the death shot. It's that center start target right there. If you shoot that, you're taking a risk, and if you shoot it and you don't get credit for it, it really sucks. So you want that to work, so you got to put that cap back in there. It's a 0.05 microfarad. And I'll say this, don't skimp out and use a cheapo capacitor. Use a high quality. I started using film caps in there because I had bought some off Mouser, and they just weren't, and sometimes they would short like the old ones did, and you know, that gets me calls, and I don't like that. So when I say the more expensive ones are like, I don't know, 50 cents instead of 5 cents or something, but it's just, you know, they're still cheap. So all these stand-up targets, they really need them. So that one's still got one. These 2 are missing. The pop bumpers have them. Honestly, the pop bumpers, I can't ever tell if they're there or not, because they don't act that quick because the ball's rolling into them and back out. But these stand-up targets, they definitely need them, especially ones where the ball's hitting it like face on, because it can be a very fast closure. These, generally the ball is kind of, well, it's coming from this way. It's kind of a glancing hit mostly. So they're closed a little bit longer, so they're a little bit less necessary, but still good idea to have them on there. So I'll put these back on there also. So I'm going to finish cleaning these up, and then well, actually, I'm not going to put any of these pop bumpers back together until Jane is done touching up the playfield and cleaning it. But I'll be done with my work on the pop bumpers until Jane gets her job done. those ran for about 4 or 5 minutes, and they're looking nice and clean. So just let those drip a little bit, and we'll set them aside and let them dry off. So this is the worst of the pop bumper rings. Still a rosin in my wheel, so I'm gonna give it a few minutes and see what I can do with this, if I can bring it back to life. So that was about 30 seconds, and it got about too hot. I couldn't hold it any longer, but I got about halfway around. And so yeah, they're totally gonna clean up and polish up and just like new. So I'm gonna set this in some water, let it cool down, start working on the other two. All right, so they look way better now. I'm gonna stick them in the ultrasonic to clean out some of the residual rosin, and we'll see how they look after that. So by the way, I did a review on some of these ultrasonics, and I talked about this one not having a heater. I actually added a heater to this one, just like I bought 2 of these. It's a little 25 watt block heater, and it's got a temperature. It's basically got a thermostat that turns it on and off. I don't know exactly what temperature it turns off on. One appropriate for an engine block to turn it off. So it's like, I don't know, 150 degrees or something it turns off. So it does a great job keeping this thing warm. Because this one was unheated. Anyway, back to these. We'll pull them out and wipe them off. But yeah, I mean they look like new. It doesn't take very long at all. So speaking of ultrasonics, you obviously can't put your plastics in there, but the unpainted plastics like these, you can put them in there, and I mean just in like 30 seconds they go from looking like crap to looking crystal clear again. Well, I mean not crystal clear, but they're gonna. We'll do it in live time. I'll show you how quickly it works. I'm just gonna. We'll leave them in there. We'll count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're still a little yellowed, aren't they? But they're clean. We'll give them a couple minutes. Okay, so here's what the plastics look like after about 5 minutes in there. About the same as after 10 seconds, to be honest. They're still yellowed. Yeah, I didn't figure it'd help with that. I know people put these in hydrogen peroxide solution and set them in the sun. That's one thing people do anyway. But they're at least clean, and they're way nicer looking than they were. I'm gonna rinse them off because they've still got some dirty water on them, and they'll look yet a little bit better. So next thing I'm gonna do is go through these slingshots. So this is the bottom side of them, and you can see that they're pretty dang nasty. My guess is those would be the original sleeves. I mean, generally speaking, people don't replace the sleeves in these things for whatever reason. They're not that hard. I guess people don't think they affect the performance of the game, because all they do is drain your balls, frankly. So if they're weaker, it makes it easier to play, but they do add a lot of liveliness to the game. This particular one is broken. The little plastic piece that goes there, like that plastic piece there, well, when I say plastic, it's nylon. Wow, that's got a lot of slop. That's excessive. I have to look at that. So see, that's got a little bit of wiggle. The plastic piece is there. This one, the plastic piece is there, but it's got an excessive amount of slop. So we've got issues on both of these. I don't know where that's. I'm gonna look at the one that's trying to look at the one that's working, or that's tight. So it's that piece right there. I think it's just a pressed on pin. And on this other side, that pin has just worked loose. It's about to pop out. So I might be able to fix that just by hammer it back in and basically re-mushroom the back side of that. We'll see. Anyway, they're both going to have to come out. This one's going to have to come out to repair that hinge or get a new one, and this one's going to have to come out to get better access so I can put on a new little nylon part. And by the way, you can't buy the exact part that goes on there. At least I don't believe you can. I was talking to Steve at PBR, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't think they exist. He did sell me this part here, and I've used these on the Bally games before. This is the Williams version of it, and they will work fine. They look slightly different, but they fit on there. You really kind of have to get this thing out so you can beat that pin out and then put it through here, and it's kind of a pain. So you need good access. So this thing has to come out of the game. So I'm gonna have to pull both of these out. So I'm gonna start by just taking the outer assembly off. They're just 3 screws. Yeah, there goes the spring. Found it. Okay. Now there's 2 more screws, 3 more to get this plunger assembly out. You see how dirty that is? So I'll put this whole thing in the Ultrasonic, clean it up. This is kind of similar to pop bumpers. Take off those 2 nuts, pull those bolts out, and that coil lock will come out. I get the coil out and put a new sleeve in there. And but this one's going to have to get this little nylon piece put on there. And from experience, it's not super easy to do that, but we'll get it done. So I've got these 2 parts on the bench. You can obviously see this one's missing the little nylon piece, and then this one's an excessive amount of play compared to this other one. And basically all it is this little piece here is pushed through, and it acts as a pivot point, and it's just mushroomed out, but it has worked its way through there. So basically this piece here, the mount, needs to be shoved back down onto that shaft, and then a new mushroom put on there. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Take it to the vise and beat that bracket down onto the shaft, and then pop it good right on the end of the shaft so it has a little mushroom like that one. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do anyway. So I've got myself a 1/4 inch impact socket just to kind of go around that shaft. I'm going to try to beat this on there. Well, that's better. Need to go a little further. Oh, it's really not wanting to go in. I'm really surprised that didn't go. Okay, I'm going to get a different socket and try it again. So I've got a slightly larger socket. I'm afraid I might have been touching the shaft with it inside of the perimeter. Well, junk. Okay. Can't fix that one. Can't fix them all. So I'm gonna see if I can drive this pin out. Go get another tool. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is just try to beat this pin out. And that's a little bitty pin. My punch is just slightly too big. I have to get some pliers and pull the rest of it out. Alright, so now it's just a matter of sliding this on, lining up the hole, and then beating that pin back in. And this is the hard part because now you've got the plastic piece and there's no good place to, it's harder to set this down and beat on it. You can't see what I'm doing there. How about that? Okay, I got it through, so now I just gotta put it across an opening here. A lot of slack in this thing, so I'll put it about like that. Go. And before I throw this thing away, this other one, I'm going to make sure that this part exists because a sloppy slingshot's better than no slingshot, and it is a little bit tighter than it was. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but what I managed to do was this bracket, it kind of folded down the edges. Even though it didn't move across the shaft, it did bend that bracket down, which tightened it up a little bit. I'm going to beat on it a little bit more. How's this? You know, why not? Break a finger. That really does not want to slide down, but that took out about half the slot, so I'm not afraid to go any further. I'll call Steve up and see if there is a part for that. Well, there's a part, but whether it's available. I was just thinking, I've got the part sitting right here. So this is an old 8-ball deluxe, or 8-ball, not deluxe. And I did not start the parting out on this one. Somebody else did. I bought this thing. It was all stripped out. So don't need any complaints about stripping a game. This thing was stripped when I got it. I mean, there's nothing. It is definitely a parts game. So I am going to take that dude out right there. Huh. This one's got screws and not hex nuts. So I'll go get a screwdriver and take that out. So I got this other slingshot assembly out of that 8-ball. And I'm going to put both these in the Ultrasonic, clean them up a little bit. So I just took apart this little assembly. You can see the shape of the sleeve, pretty nasty. I'll take this other one apart. They're just 2 nuts on the back side and a little lock washer. They like to scurry all over the place. And those 2 bolts, they like to scurry too. Heard one of them go down to the playfield. And somebody's at the door, the dogs are announcing that. So, wow, it can't slid out. Oh, there it is. Yeah. That's going to work a lot better with a clean plunger and a new sleeve. And while these are out, I'll go ahead and clean up the surface of these. It won't matter, but it'll look a little bit better. Got all my clean parts. I'm going to put them back in there just in reverse order, and these things are going to pop. One little nuance to like tighten up nuts like this, you need a pretty thin-walled nut driver, and I find these old classic Craftsman have pretty thin walls. The other thing, even with a thin wall one, if you have the point sticking down towards the other one, if you have the point and the point, you can't get the tool in there. So when you tighten the first one, you have to have a flat side towards the other one, or you won't be able to get the tool in for the next one. So that's just the way it is. I mean, and that's not the only part where it's like that. It's kind of a common thing. And if you get a thick-walled tool, you really can't do it. So you got to have a thin-walled nut driver, or you're stuck getting pliers coming from the side, and that's no good. Now the slingshots are put back together. I'm going to disassemble these flipper assemblies and see what's put up with them. This one we looked at from the top side. The bushing is looks like one bolt is missing and the other two are super loose. But I'm gonna start by taking this off here. See what kind of nightmare lies beneath. I shouldn't say nightmare, just swapping some parts. Yeah, it's pretty worn. That should be flush. It's just beat to death, so that's got to be replaced. And you can bet the plunger has the reverse shape on it. You can see that it does. So I'll grab that lock washer, or not lock washer, spring washer. That's washer, I guess. And let me grab an Allen wrench and we'll take the flipper assembly off. So I grabbed an 1/8" Allen wrench. That's a Gottlieb flipper shoe, so we gotta put a Bally on there. And this thing is toast in a lot of ways. That plunger, the end of it's all mushroomed out, and there's an excessive amount of slop there, so whole new plunger piece. This metal piece here, that's fine, I'll reuse that. So next I'll take out this plunger. As I mentioned, there's one is missing and the other two are loose, so not much holding it in there. This is another part that for whatever reason a lot of people don't swap them. Why do I say that? Because I see them and they're never fresh. I mean, a lot of times, like, I'll take apart a machine and these parts, the coil stops, they'll be swapped out. But the bushings won't be, and the bushings keep the flipper from wiggling. And they're just a wear part, and they're only a couple bucks, and they're not hard to swap, at least on these. Some of the Gottliebs or some of the games where there's a nut on the back side of here, so you have to take the whole plate off to get to the nut on the back. They're a little bit more trouble, but on these it's just three machine screws. Swap them out. I mean, I consider these about like coil sleeves. If you're taking the part to take this thing, take this off, throw this thing away, put in a fresh one. Anyway, so this Mylar down here was peeling up, and I was kind of picking at it, and I was thinking, man, this is the thinnest Mylar I've ever seen. It's not Mylar, it is box tape. I say box tape, like thin tape you put on a box. I always call it box tape. I don't know what the real name is, but Yeah, it's box tape, and it's still kind of sticking to the, it's leaving all this gummy residue. It's a mess, and it's peeling up. It's sticking and peeling at the same time, if that makes any sense. So, and they had that post. Have to fill that in. I think I'll leave this problem for Jane. She loves problems like this. So I'm done.
I got my own problems, dude.
There ain't no doubt about that. So anyway, I guess I will. The slingshots. Oh, I didn't take that. I'm sorry. The flippers. I need to take that pushing out. So one less protrusion to go around, and I'm gonna let Jane go through and clean all this. And after she's done, I'll redo the drop targets and the stand-ups. No point in getting them all dirty. So I think I'll stop here and set this aside until Jane gets the rest of her work done and she can get to this. All right, so I'm in the process of trying to resolve this extra wire that's been hung on here to ground this lamp. So that lamp in particular is this L right here, the second L. And it's this gray and violet wire. It was a stock one, and they've added this other one. So what I've done is, for now, I just put a jumper on here, attach one end of my multimeter, and I'm going to go up the top side and see what's going on. So here's that connector. So here's that stock gray and violet wire. If I touch it, you don't hear my multimeter beeping because I've got no continuity. If I touch the other one that has been added, if I can get it. Yeah, see, that one works. So this one has lost continuity. And to be honest, when I first saw this, I was like, that's crazy, because this connector here, so this one comes in, this has got the data and everything, the 5 volts coming into the board and all the power. This one, typically it does all the back box stuff. And then these two are the ones that go down into the cabinet that does the playfield. And I was like, well, how's this wire even getting down here? So what they've done is, so Bally needed more lights on the playfield, so these wires, they all run up in through here, and then some of them, they all go through this connector, but then 4 of them go back down through this connector here and back down in. So that gray and violet one is the third from the top right here. So I'm going to break this thing open and we'll measure, see if we've got continuity up to this connector. Okay, so I got that broken open, and I'll see if we've got, okay, so we've got continuity there. So I'm gonna put this back together and then we'll go up to the next connector. So it could be this connector. It's probably one of the connectors. It could be something else, but I bet it's one of these connectors. So I looked, I couldn't even see the wire, so I'm just gonna see if I can find it. Measuring continuity, see if any of them beep. And it might not, just because I did reconnect this one, but this may, you can't see what it's not focused. This may be the weak connection, so it may not be making it up to this next one. Like I said, I wish I can't really see the colors very well back in here, but I do not have continuity to this point. So clearly this is my weak spot. Let's see if I can get in the back side of this. I ought to be able to, yeah, I can see the metal there. If I can hold this and film at the same time, I'll put you on the stand real quick. Okay, so we definitely have it there. Well, shoot. It could be a failed joint between the wire and the pin, or maybe the wire's broken, but between here and here, it goes dead. So I'm gonna do a little digging here. So I found the wire, it's this one here, and I verified I definitely don't have continuity. So I'm gonna try to pull this pin out of there, push it out, I should say. There, it's out. It's a little. So I think I'll cut that. Kind of looked like that was crimped over the insulation. Still.
Joe, come on, Jacob.
So I hooked up a multimeter on conductivity on to one side of this gray and violet wire. And I come to the other end of the wire here, so I just pull it out of there. And it's so within that 1 foot section, it's broken. So I'm just going to replace this little section here, and I think that way we'll have conductivity all the way from the lamp all the way here, and then I can put this correctly and get rid of this nonsense with the extra wire. So very rarely is it actually a broken wire, but I mean this case, so I've got, you can see the whole thing here. I got both ends of this wire, and it's just not working. If I touch it here, probably right there where it was bent around one of those zip ties. I bet it's right there. Yeah, I bet money it is. But anyway, I'm gonna swap this out and we'll get it working. All right, so I got this new connector made up here. So I'm just gonna try to feed it in both sides. Make sure I get the right one. There's that one. I probably should have paid more attention. I believe it goes in that hole right there. Probably obstructing view. Ah, shoot. It was a male on both sides. Oh, shoot, not a male female. Well, I'll have to take that back off and put it on the male on the other end. All right, so I got that wire set up there. I'll put a couple of zip ties just to neaten it up a little bit. And that's not red and violet, but that's better than a big old dangly wire hanging around there. So next thing guys, I'm going to do, I'm going to hook my multimeter back up the lamp, and I'm going to see if I've got continuity to this bare ended here. I should to that one there if everything is good. Okay, so I've got one end of my multimeter hooked up under the bottom of the plate, under the playfield to the bottom of the lamp where the wire is connected, and that has fixed, so I've got continuity here. So now this is going to be the best part. Chop suey, and this will go, all that wire is going to go away, and I'm going to I think I'll just solder those together, put a little heat shrink on there, because it's not going to be long enough if I don't. So I think that's exactly what I'll do. I'll strip that back a little bit, put a heat shrink on it, solder it, and that'll be done. Okay, one last test. I'm still connected to the lamp down below. Go all the way to the pin, and we've got continuity. Got that soldered up with some heat shrink on there. That's a lot better. Well, I've got to unsolder this from the lamp, this extra wire here. That will be very gratifying. Well, I think I'm going to end this video right here. It's getting kind of long. Might do one more on this Star Trek. Do all the, well, finish up, do some filming of Jane doing some of the touch-ups and cleaning up the playfield. Got to put the pop bumpers back in, replace the drop targets. I guess that's about it. Oh, LED it, and probably have to repair about a dozen or two pop or light sockets. Anyway, if you like the video, click like and hit that subscribe button. Cheers.